So let's get going. So I'll call the meeting to order. Before we get started, let's introduce everyone on this meeting. I'm Sandy Brock. When I call your name, please confirm that you can hear me and verify that you are present. For staff, we have Jan, who's our conservation assistant. Thanks, Jan, for being the solo for this time. Sorry for the interruption. Excuse me. Oh, yep. Welcome to Zoom.
Thank you.
But we'll go with the commissioners. So, Alicia.
Here.
Jonathan.
Present.
And Betsy.
Here.
All right. For the speakers, we're going to have Norm Hill for 79 and 183 Upton Street.
Yeah.
Thank you. And James Tetrault. Sorry, I'm mispronouncing your name.
Oh, looks like I need to upgrade him to panelist.
Okay. And then Wendell Phillips and Tom Schultz for 106 Millbury. If you could just unmute yourself and so that we can make sure we can hear you.
Can you hear me properly?
Yes, thank you very much.
Wendell, I'm here.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then James, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Very well. Thank you very much. All right. Take care of some business up front. This open meeting of the Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely via Zoom pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order as extended on June 15th, 2021, with the governor's signing of Senate Bill number 2475, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. Access information for the public has been provided on the town's website. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. If you are using the dial in by telephone feature, you can mute yourself by pressing *6. As chair, I'll introduce each speaker on the agenda. Please note that you will not have screen sharing privileges, but staff can display any visuals per your cue. After speakers conclude their remark, I will invite each commissioner by name to provide any comments, questions, or motions. After the commissioners have spoken, I will allow public comment to be spoken by participants. Participants must raise hand feature by clicking on the hand icon at the bottom right of the Zoom menu bar to indicate they would like to speak. If you're using dial-in by telephone feature, please press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute you when you are called upon. Participants who raise their hand will be recognized one at a time by their name and then will be promoted to speak. Public comments will be followed by commission and applicant responses. Finally, each vote will be conducted by roll call vote. As a reminder, the commission is concerned with state and town wetlands and stormwater regulations. Concerns outside of this purview need to be addressed to appropriate boards. For example, road conditions must be addressed with the select board and traffic concern must be addressed with the planning board. All right, sorry for the distractions. All right, so before we get going with public hearings, as far as action items, other than the meetings, is anyone here, Jan, that we should be addressing?
No.
Okay. So why don't we do, we've got about 8 minutes. So why don't we start with the meeting minutes? So does anyone have any comments, questions, or changes to the meeting minutes from November 16th? Not seeing anyone. Do we have a motion to approve them?
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the November 16th meeting.
Do I have a second?
I'll make second the motion to approve the meeting minutes from the November 16th meeting.
Okay. We'll do a roll call vote. Betsy?
Yes.
Jonathan?
Yes.
Alicia?
Yes.
I am also a yes. The motion carries. Next up on action items is a request for a minor change to 146 North Street. This is DEP number 164977. If you look at the report, there's a little explanation on this. So basically, we've approved the order of conditions for this site. And I know that we discussed the waiver of the 30,000 square feet contiguous upland area, but we never made a formal motion, at least not one that's been that was added to the meeting minutes or in the file. So we're trying to do some cleanup here and actually going to ask for a motion for this waiver as a minor change. But before we do that, because this is a little bit unusual, I'm just going to go around real quickly with the commissioners to ask if they have any questions. So Jonathan.
I don't have any questions, but I'm getting a ton of background noise.
Okay.
I don't know if it's Norman's, I see Norman's turning yellow. I don't know if you could mute Norman.
I think Jan can do that.
I don't know if that was the issue, but no, I can't hear it now. So,
Okay.
I don't have any questions.
Okay. Betsy, do you have any questions on this?
No.
I mean, we
don't.
can bring up the plan and we can show it. I mean, I think we had the conversation. It's just that this didn't get documented, but.
Yeah, here's the plan. So I guess the gist is that this is the area that the orders was put upon, and the applicant went and purchased this land and then is attaching this back lot onto this lot because there's a wetlands right here, so it's easier for them
Right.
to access this back lot from here.
If you go to either the next one or the previous one, there's one that shows the proposed house. There's an overview one with the house on it. It's not the endorsed A&R plan.
Mhm.
I would go back to the revised plans.
Yeah, that one only has these two sheets.
Okay. How about the original plan? Leah showed it to me the other day, so. Or
Yeah.
maybe it was just on the GIS. I'm just trying to look at where the wetlands are, where the upland area is, and just so that everyone can see it prior to doing a motion.
Just a second.
Sandy, when were these, when was the original discussion on these, on this?
This was a little while ago. Looking at the revisions, 2019. There we go. So when you can see this, and everything was delineated,
Right,
that there's an existing house, that small house on North
Yep.
Street.
I know it well, yeah.
Yeah. So they're going to tear that down and then put one basically in the middle of that area in the front. And then when we had the meeting, we talked about it, but it never got recorded that we made a motion to waive, to grant a waiver from our local bylaw. And that's what we're doing now, is just to make sure that we have a clean record, that it's in the file.
Okay, so
Um,
does that transfer if the property sells, because that property is for sale right now?
Right. And I'm sure that's one of the reasons they're coming back
Okay.
to us, to make sure
Okay.
that everything's cleaned up.
Got it,
From my perspective, we had approved this and we had only approved work in the front portion of this site.
yep,
So there was no access to the back. They weren't asking for any access to the back. So, so we had gone ahead and approved this. We just need to take care of that waiver request under the local bylaw.
got it.
Yeah,
Thank
no,
you.
it's good. I want to make sure everyone, either if you weren't here, but if you remember what this was about. So,
Yeah.
Alicia, any questions?
Nope, no questions.
Okay, so can I have a motion to grant the waiver from our local bylaw as, stated in Leah's report from our bylaw section 4V.C.4 about contiguous land?
I'll make a motion to grant the waiver from section V.C.4 of the bylaws, which would require 3,000 square feet of continuous upland for the property at 146 North Street.
Yep, that's 30,000. Yep,
Oh, there, yeah, sorry.
no problem.
Reading's hard.
Yeah, and do I have a second?
I second said motion.
All right, so I will do a roll call vote. Jonathan,
Yes.
Alicia,
Yes.
Betsy.
Yes.
I am also a yes, this motion passes. And the waiver is granted. Okay. So we have 2 minutes to the next one. And one other piece of that is that for the same one, what we want to do is to have another motion that this waiver was considered a minor change. Do I have a motion for that, for the same site, 146 North Street, that's a minor change?
I'll make a motion that the waiver to the property for the property at 146 North Street is a minor change.
Do I have a second?
I second said motion.
Roll call vote. Alicia,
Yes.
Betsy,
Yes.
Jonathan.
Yes.
I am also a yes. So I believe that's it, Jan, right, for this one?
That's it. Yep.
Perfect. Okay. So we'll review our budget afterwards. And since it's like a minute to our first public hearing, why don't we just wait for that and we can get going with our first public hearing.
I have a quick comment from the open space
Sure.
committee if we want to. So they there's a lot of trails related things that came up. I wasn't able to make it to the meeting, but the open space action plan is recommending that we create a trails committee to be responsible for a lot of the trail related action items that are coming up in the open space committee, open space
Okay.
recreation committee. So would we want to take the lead in creating a trails committee, however we, want to?
Yeah, and I think there's a couple things dealing with that. Is one, to make sure we identify which parcels we're talking about, because remember we own some parcels where the land trust actually holds a restriction and they do some of their own trail maintenance. And in other cases, they're all ours.
Yeah.
So it's really just making sure we work with the land trust to make sure that we don't overlap with that and we're, working together and not trying to do double dipping on things that we don't have enough volunteers to do anyways.
Right. So yeah, I just wanted to do we want to take the lead on forming this committee? Do we want to see if the land trust wants to take the lead? I can respond back however we see fit.
I think we need to get the land trust involved because
Okay.
I know they do active trail maintenance. So I think we'd be best to work with them.
Okay.
So, all right.
Do you have a contact for them that you could send over, Jan, or
Leah does.
Leah does? Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. I'll email her tomorrow.
Yeah, if not, I have someone else too. So, but
Okay.
go through Leah first, as she probably has the right person for the land trust.
All right, perfect. That was it.
Okay, great. Seeing that at 7:15, we'll get going with our first public hearing. Pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Conservation Commission called a public hearing to act upon a notice of intent for the construction of a single-family house at 29 Pollard Road. And who is here to speak to that?
I am, Madam Chair.
Yeah, please give your name and go ahead and ask Jan if you want to put up any plans and we can get going.
Sure. I'm James Tatro from Azimuth Land Design, here representing Accessible Housing for Children, Elders, and Disabled LLC. The applicant and the owners of the property are John and Donna Maria Cameron. And again, this is the property at 29 Pullard Road. It's on the south side of Pullard Road, right at its intersection with Pleasant Street. It is a parcel of land of 4.3 acres. There we go. It's a parcel of land of 4.3 acres. It's kind of a long, narrow property, which is bordered on the westerly side by the Quinsigamon River. The site all drains to the west, southwest towards that river, that perennial stream. And most of the site in the area where the house is proposed, as you see on there in the driveway, is sort of a slightly overgrown meadow area. It was kind of a continuation of the backyard and side yard of the next door property, 25 Pullard Road. And just for a little background, though it's not necessarily relevant to a decision here, a similar development was granted an order of conditions back, I think it was 6 or 7 years ago. We actually have made the proposed impervious surface here actually slightly smaller, mostly by having a smaller house and shortening the driveway a little bit. The proposal, as you read from the ad, is for the construction of a single family home, which would be serving actually as a Dover Amendment exemption qualifying use. I may have it wrong, but I believe this is intended for folks who are dealing with rehabilitation from strokes. That I think may be the intended use of this site. So what you see on there is a small home. You see some just north of the proposed home. You see some parking spaces. That's why it's a home with sort of dedicated parking spaces. That's not typical of a just normal single family home, and that's why it's set up in that way. You have a driveway that comes in from the frontage on Pullard Road, runs beside the adjacent property at number 25, being just about as far away as we can get it from the wetland to the left as you're looking on this sheet, or the west. And just for reference, I think our nearest approach of proposed work is to flag number 6, and it's 71 feet away. And so you have a driveway comes south from the frontage. You have a few parking spaces. You have the proposed home. And all of this is actually in an area, again, that is sort of an slightly overgrown meadow at this point. The site soils, I should note, are supposed to be from the mapping Merrimack series soils, which are one of the most sandy, extremely permeable of the types that we see. We did a deep hole in the area immediately southwest of the house where a proposed infiltration structure is. And we did find a sand texture soil, and there was no modeling in the soil. I have it somewhere in my hand, but it was about 9 feet down that we went. We still had not found modeling. We couldn't get any deeper with the machine we had just for cave-ins of the sandy material. At any rate, it was material that was consistent with the mapping as a Merrimack series soil, which is kind of what you see in an outwash area, sort of your flat areas leading down to established streams or ponds or lakes, are where you typically see those. And so that fits what you'd expect in this area. And again, our deep hole fit that same description. We had a wetland report done by Goddard Consulting, and they did transects at flag number 21, which is a little bit, maybe just off the screen. Yep, I think you might be right at the edge of the screen there. Yep, flag 21 is in that area. They noted in the upland, there was red oak and sugar maple with honeysuckle and unfortunately bittersweet. And in the wetland area, the vegetation transitions to red maple, cottonwood, green ash, winterberry, and eastern poison ivy. We're not proposing to alter any of the wetland on the site, but this additional flagging by Goddard Consulting located an isolated wetland that you see on the screen there. It's just to the left of Jan, of her picture. that had not been found previously in the 2014 or 15 flagging. And because the house that's just north, just up off the screen here, is going to connect to an existing sewer stub. Yep, because it's going to now scan down back just a little bit, please. And yep, there you go, you got them both. The house at the top of the screen and near the bottom is where that existing sewer stub is. So we're not being gratuitous in running the sewer line from the proposed house to that point and going and making a temporary alteration of about 130 square feet in that isolated wetland. It's just is where the existing stub was left. As I say, that would be a temporary alteration. We're proposing, as in the notes on the left side of the sheet there, to move the topsoil and material aside, and also to plant some additional winterberry, I think it was, in there after everything is replanted. So we would, I think we're reasonable in considering that a temporary alteration, and it is only an isolated wetland. It's not a state jurisdiction wetland. And I want to note, again, as I mentioned, the westerly boundary of the site is the Quinsigamond River, obviously a perennial stream. And we have 116,504 square feet of riverfront area on site. Oh, excuse me, that was the old determination. Not that this is a big difference, but it went to 115,768 under the new flagging by Goddard. And we're altering 9,600 square feet of that, which is 8.3%. So what I want to emphasize is we're staying under the 10% guideline in the Rivers Protection Act. And our only alteration in the inner riparian zone is for bringing the driveway in from the frontage at the north end of the lot to the house. The house is outside of the inner riparian zone. Again, as I noted at flag number 6, which wetland flag number 6 is also the limit. All of these wetland flags are also the limit of the mean annual high water as determined by Goddard. And so that I told you we're 71 feet from flag number 6 at the nearest, that's the nearest point. We are 71 feet also from the mean annual high water line, 71 feet from the perennial stream. And that really can't be avoided because we're within a few feet of the property line with the proposed driveway. We can't get out of the inner riparian zone completely and bring a driveway into the site. Again, our total alteration in the inner riparian zone is 3,100 and change square feet. Within the outer, almost 6,500 square feet, bringing us to the total of 9,600 or 8.3%. So we're still within the guidelines. And again, our only alteration is for bringing the access in. And as further, some more background on that, I mistakenly checked, and this is pointed out by Leah and Jan, I had mistakenly checked the box saying that to consider this a limited project qualifying work, because I was thinking of, well, we're only crossing into the inner riparian zone because of the driveway. And it was pointed out that, no, that's only for a wetland crossing, but it sort of makes the same point. It's along the same lines. We're only intruding into that inner riparian zone because we're getting that access, and it's the only place we can get the access. I would note, again, I mentioned that we did a deep hole just to the southwest of the house, and we proposed an infiltration structure there. We actually were pretty conservative. We showed that in a 2-inch storm, even calling all of the material a loamy sand, we were able to take all of that flow without any issue in that infiltration structure, which is just a stone envelope with 2 Caltex C4 chambers in there. So nice and simple. I guess I will leave it at that, except just noting again, we show a soil stockpile area just to the northeast of the house, just off the one corner. Yep. Just to indicate for the contractor where he should put that. And in the end, excuse me, there will be, as noted on here, which was on the previous set of plans, conservation signs and split rail fence bordering part of this property to set off the area where the house is going to be installed and to try and discourage any further alteration. I guess I'll leave it at that and try and answer any questions. I'm sure there's stuff I've forgotten that folks will ask about, but I'll try and answer your questions.
Sure. I have a few questions, but I'll go around to the rest of the commissioners to see if they have any initial questions. I remember the site. I also understand, the type of soils and where it is, and it's a very steep drop off to the river, and et cetera. But let me just quickly go around. So Alicia, do you have any questions?
Nothing at the moment.
Sure. Betsy
Nothing at the moment.
and Jonathan?
No, nothing right now.
So Jan, can you bring up the plan again? So my first question, can you zoom in onto the driveway? And just just zoom in. So what's not on here is there's an existing sewer service from 25 Pullet Road. Do you know what size that is?
It's either 4 or 6. I'm not sure which.
I'm just wondering why you could not connect to that if the easement's over your property. I'm just thinking of instead, it's a cost saving to you guys, but it's a lot less work if you could connect to that.
Could Jan pan up just a little bit? I honestly hadn't the other way. Sorry. I just want to see. I
mean, it's just so close. It's right there.
Yeah, it may have been possible.
And it's not gonna make or break our review.
Yeah, I honestly I have to confess, I honestly didn't consider it. And I don't know if there would be any procedural thing where the town does not want two different parties using the same stub from the line. I'm not sure if there's anything.
If it's a 6-inch line, 2 houses on that would be nothing. But again, I understand there's a legal type of discussion, and I'm just making this as a suggestion, as a potential way to really reduce some, work for, it's both money in, but also, going out back and going through that isolated area. That's all.
Yep.
And that's a suggestion. I get it. It might be just worth a quick question on that. The other thing is this is a little unusual for a house to have a 6-car parking lot. All the questions I have are all kind of zoning questions. So I am not going to kind of ask you to answer any of these, but I know that Leah is going to be reaching out to the building commissioner just to make sure everything's all set. I do not know how this meets the Dover Amendment, but again, that's not our jurisdiction. So have fun with that with the zoning officer and the building commissioner. But my only concern is that you have a larger parking area, and with that number of parking spaces in this type, you're going to have a lot of vehicles coming in and out. So not so worried about the volume of runoff, more worried about the water quality of it. So you're taking the roof and infiltrating that, which is great. Is there a possibility of putting in kind of a passive water quality swale? I don't even want to call it a rain garden, but a bioretention, but right where, because everything is pitched towards the river.
I think you have that's a good suggestion. Something, as you're looking there, you see the 314 proposed contour, and you go further left and there's the walnut tree. And I would say that a stone line trench off the couple sides of the parking area closest to that walnut would absolutely do it, especially in this soil.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying. I'm not looking for, any kind of water quality unit or anything like that. just a
Yep.
passive system to get infiltration and some cleansing with that amount of gravel there in the distance from the river. That's probably, just because of, the much higher use than you would get in a single family home of vehicles
Sure.
coming in and out in the variety of vehicles.
Sure.
But
I have to, again, I have to say though, we did actually make quite a point that we actually decreased the total impervious cover from the previous plan.
Yep.
Which was just a regular single family home.
right. And again, I'm not worried as much about, especially with this soil, because I'm not as worried about the quantity. It's more just quality.
Yep.
And it's not really about the roof, because you've already taken care of that. But just something very simple coming off the edge of that parking lot. Those were my main questions. I mean, it's sewer. You have sewer and water on the site, correct?
Correct. We have access to. I always want to say municipal service, even though the water is the Grafton Water District, but
Right.
I'll call it municipal water service as well as sewer.
Okay. Yeah, those were my main questions around this. I mean, we're familiar with this. This came in front of us, and we definitely had a lot of conversations around this site and the configuration and so forth. Those were really, my basic questions. I'm going to go to the report. As far as what Leah had kind of done through her review. And have you gotten this information already?
Which information are you talking about?
So there's a couple of them. One is that we don't think you need a limited project. So
I submitted a revised WPA
Okay.
Form 3 because as I was saying, I was thinking that going into the inner riparian zone was sort of the equivalent of a limited project, and Jan and Leah explained that it wasn't.
Okay. And then so then there was a kind of an internal discussion about whether we actually need to have additional filing fees for the 6-space parking lot, because it's a little bit unusual. I think if it's still meeting all of the kind of zoning and so forth as a single family, then I don't think we need additional fees for that. So we have not got, Jan, we have not gotten a DEP number or comments yet.
Not yet.
Can I ask Jan, in that regard, a few minutes ago, as I was sitting here, something came up on the screen and it said, it was a email response to, I had been begging Judy Schmitz and DEP to send out to assign a file number to this. It would be extremely difficult with my limited ability to deal with what I'm working at. Is there any way you could check if something has just happened?
No, we're not going to do that. Okay.
Okay.
Right. It's public hearing time. So, and we have other hearings that we need to get to. So, sorry for that, but we don't typically do that. And then we also received a few comments from the building department about the required frontage and 10 feet of property line setback. I'll let you deal with the building inspector on that. We don't need to get in the middle of that. We did receive a letter from an abutter at 25 Pullard Road from David Myerson. I don't know if he's on this call. We'll get to the public in a minute. And he was just had questions regarding the setback screening in the untreated parking lot runoff, which we've already discussed. And then also asked about disturbance and so forth. So we've hit most of these. One kind of side note, the conservation restriction requires granite bounds and signage at the edge of the conservation restriction boundary. So that would be part of the conditions.
Sure, we would have no objection to that condition, of course not.
Right. And then as far as when I first talked to this project about Leah, we were just, and I can put it out to the other commissioners, whether a peer review would be required based on the amount of imperviousness. And I don't think we do, because we don't typically get it for individual houses, although we have done so in the past based on circumstances. I don't think that parking lot is sufficient. Let me do that real quick. Alicia, do you see any need for a peer review?
I don't see a need for a peer review with this one.
Jonathan?
Sorry, I moved my screen here.
Sorry.
No, I don't see the need. I've got 3 going, and no, I don't see the need for a peer review.
And Betsy?
No, I don't see need.
Okay. So those were the general comments that I got from Leah in her report. Jan, was there anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay. So based on not having, a DEP number or not having the comments, we can, would like to, have it continued. Obviously that has come from the applicant, but we can't even really, we don't have a number. Some people say we can't, not supposed to open a meeting. I don't go along with that, but yeah, we can't close a hearing without a DEP number. So.
After any audience comments, I would ask that the commission please continue this to your next hearing.
All right, thank you. So I'll do a quick round of the commissioners, and then I'm going to open it up to the public. So any further questions, Alicia?
Nope, no further questions.
Betsy?
None.
And Jonathan?
Nope.
So at this point, if anyone is in the audience who wishes to have any comments or has any questions, either for the commission or from the applicant, please raise your hand. And I'll kind of babble a little bit while give people a chance to raise their hand. Not seeing any other participants or attendees. Not seeing anyone raise their hand. The applicant has requested a continuance to the next hearing. Hopefully you can get your DEP number quickly and we can, wrap it up. And it's up to you. You can have a conversation with Leah as far as whether you actually need to be at the next hearing. We can take a minute and just talk about some general conditions. One condition would be no further riverfront alterations. We have standard conditions. You've already addressed some of them on the plan with the signs. Those would be generally the conditions that we'd be looking for. I'll be interested to see if there's any potential of changing that sewer line, but that's not going to be a condition. That's really just an option. If it's open, then, that would be a nice little thing so that we don't have to go through the isolated wetlands. The only other thing that we would require is that if you do cross that isolated area, you described what you would do to replace the area. We'd probably want to see something, either a sketch or a narrative on that. But other than that, I don't see any other conditions at this point. Do you have any questions on the conditions?
No, I don't think so. I think everything you're outlining is pretty reasonable.
Okay. All right. So that's that. So do I have a motion to continue the hearing?
I make a motion to continue the hearing until December 21st.
Do I have a second?
I second the motion to continue the meeting, the hearing for 29 Pullard Road on, excuse me, December 21st.
Great. Roll call vote. Jonathan?
Yes.
Alicia?
Yes.
Betsy?
Yes.
I am also a yes. See you on the 21st, but reach out to Leah to see where we're at that point.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Have a good one. Okay, next up is 106 Millbury Street. Okay, pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing to act upon a notice of intent for the construction of a single-family house at 106 Millbury Street. And who's here to present that?
Good evening. My name is Tom Schutz from Goddard Consulting. I'm here on behalf of the applicant Wendell Phillips for 106 Millbury Street in Grafton. Wendell is also here tonight. Jan, I sent you an email before with a brief presentation to present to the Conservation Commission. I don't know if you could pull that up. Otherwise, the existing conditions plan and the proposed plan would be fine.
Sure, just a moment. All right, just a second.
Okay. So we'll first start with an aerial here of the site. The site is about 40,000 square feet. It is mostly upland area and it is dominant in Norway maple. We also have some multifloral rose. We have burning bush, garlic mustard, and a lot of red oak. As you can see, there's a blue line running through the middle, which would quantify as a hydrologic connection by DEP. This is a ditch that runs through the property. It runs out of a 18-inch reinforced concrete pipe and then back into another reinforced concrete pipe. And we'll talk about that in a little while. Across the Millbury Street, we have a large pond system, and that casts buffer zone onto our site, which we'll see on the existing site plans. There is nothing currently built on the property, as you can see. Here we have a USGS of the locust site. As you can see, there's no intermittent stream or perennial stream that runs through the ditch or runs through the property. And there's a stream that's above the property, but that doesn't cast any buffer zone onto our locust site. We could also see we could see the pond down to the south of the property, which again is going to cast the 100-foot buffer zone onto the site. This is our existing conditions plan, and right in the center of the site, you could see the ditch that we talked about before with the hydrologic connection. This ditch is actually just stormwater that is running out from the side of a cliff off site. The water runs into a pipe and then onto our site, and it's dumped off in the middle of the site. There's no defined channels or anything like that. It kind of just works its way down through the site because it's a little higher grade up on the northern portion of the site than the southern portion of the site, and eventually works its way back into another 18-inch reinforced concrete pipe here. There's no wetlands associated with this actual site. There's no wetland vegetation, and the soils consist of bright upland soils. We have 10YR56 color soils all around the entire site here.
And what kind of soil is it? What's the hydrological group?
I believe that it is fine loam or fine sandy loam.
Okay.
We could also see the 100-foot buffer zone cast from the pond here on the southern portion of the site. That's being highlighted by our cursor right now. That's the only resources we have on the site. There is no actual wetland, or there's no bordering vegetated wetlands on site, just this non-jurisdictional ditch. We can go to the next plan here. So you can zoom into the pictures a little bit. This is a picture of the ditch as the water enters the site here. It kind of just pools up underneath the actual pipe here. And then you can see that there's not really a defined channel. It kind of just works its way down through the property here. There's no defined channels, and the vegetation again consists of mostly upland species such as Norway maple, red oak, garlic mustard, and burning bush, and also a lot of invasives that we just mentioned before. The next photo down, This is the middle of the property. As you can see, there's a lot of channeling here, not a lot of defined bank or anything like that. This is mainly due to the water working its way down and not like a unique pattern such as a stream. It's just working its way down through the property here. And it's going to make its way down to the second pipe on the property. Most of the time when it rains, there's no actual water within the ditch itself. It kind of doesn't make its way all the way down to the second pipe here. As you can see, the dry conditions. This is the southernmost pipe as the water leaves the property and under Millbury Street. So here we have our proposed conditions. This is a proposed house here. We can see it in pink in the middle of the site. We also have a driveway, and there's only grading that's actually within the buffer zone to the pond here, which is seen in the dark blue. That's the 100-foot buffer zone to the pond. That's only minor grading within that. We are also proposing to put the ditch into a pipe and continuing the pipe all the way through the property. We believe that this is going to prevent any contaminants to be actually entering the stormwater as it continues through the site and off property. These contaminants would include sand and salt from Crosby Road and other things it could pick up as it travels through the site from the house that just happen to be in the soils. We will be connecting to water and sewer down on the southern section of right below the house, kind of where the temporary sediment basin is. You can't see it on the plan, but we'll be connecting down towards there. Our limit of work is seen in orange here, and there'll be some cutting of trees within the limit of work. We have an erosion control barrier that's going to be surrounding the whole site, preventing sedimentation from going across Millbury Street and into the pond. And I believe that concludes our presentation here. I'll now take questions from the commission.
Sure. So first couple of questions, you were going to be submitting revised plans with the other utilities on it?
That is correct. This is actually the revised plan, or sorry, we had the existing conditions plan. That was the revised plan with utilities on it. I just haven't had a chance to send that over to you yet, but that can be part of our conditions.
But it is both town sewer and water, so.
That is correct, yep.
And then as far as comments that we got from DPW, they'd like to see a permanent easement along that pipe. So if there's any issues, they could get into it. I would also suggest that pipe is really close to your to the corner of your house. And what you don't want is is to have the DPW come in and have to go do maintenance on that pipe when it's only a few feet. You may want to adjust that pipe and maybe put a new manhole right at the end of the southerly 18-inch RCP, although it didn't look like an RCP in the photos. I mean, that is something that you might want to take a look at. I'm just thinking long term.
Okay.
You know, as far as putting it into a pipe, I get it. Can you also, Jan, zoom into the southerly pipe a little bit more? Yeah. Okay, so, and just kind of slide it over. So one of the things when I was looking at this plan, excuse me, is that you've got the invert, which is an open, just basically a pipe end at 351.67, and you got your grades at 354 and 356. I'm talking existing. Mm-hmm. Something's, I can't quite figure out what's going on with the grades on this plan, just because they don't reflect the invert of 351.
So I think that the grading was actually taken at the bottom of the pipe itself, and if you saw, there was a little bit of a channel, so that would lead to a little bit lower of a grade as compared to the 356 on the rest of this. It's
not a little bit of a grade difference. It's 4 feet.
But if you saw on the plan, you could, or on the pictures, you saw how
Yeah.
open and the actual pipe was. So that was the reason for the 3 or 4 foot difference
Yeah.
in some of the different areas here.
Yeah, it's just
But-
not showing up on the plan. This, based on your proposed grading, I don't think it's an issue. It's just that it doesn't show up here. That's all. It's not,
Okay.
the existing conditions doesn't depict what's out there. And I don't think it's, it's one of those things that it's going to really alter what you're doing. But again, this looks more like GIS contours and not on the ground as built stuff. So that's just why I'm questioning why it doesn't show those other contours, because there should be there should be a 352 contour there, and another 354 contour. And so I'm just wondering where they are and making sure that those are the only things that are missing from the contours. Because when you look at like the street view of it and so forth, it looks like it's a much more regular slope. I mean, again, it's just want to make sure that there's not something here that would alter the design. And so that's why I'm raising those questions. And again, when you look at this zoomed in, I mean, you're only a few feet from the corner of your foundation to that 18-inch RCP. And if that's at 251, I forget what your finished floor elevation is. You don't want to undermine your foundation or anything. So it's more just constructability, making sure putting the pipe in makes sense. It's working with the DPW to make sure they have access to it.
Mhm.
And you may want to invest in, some sort of manhole so you have readily access, that you don't have, if you have a blockage, the DPW doesn't have to come on and dig up right next to your foundation. That's my
Absolutely.
concern.
We just wanted to keep the pipe in a straight line kind of closer to the house to represent more of the existing conditions of the ditch on site. So we didn't want to have to make it do a little bit of a bend or anything. We just wanted to kind of keep it more of the existing conditions that are seen out there right now that the ditch follows. That was the only reason we kept it so close to the house. But I do agree that there should be an easement down towards the southern end of the site to make it easy for DPW to access the pipe itself.
Yep. So that's, that was a request from them. And I think just, for the future and the homeowner that, it's a new pipe, hopefully doesn't do it, but whenever you take a new pipe and you try to connect it to an existing older pipe without any kind of structure, you may create a potential for, clogging and so forth. And that's what you don't want to do, is have excavation that close to the building. Okay.
Mhm.
So that was from DPW. Talked about the grading. There was also a question about contiguous upland, based on the way the pipe is in where kind of that flow area is. I think there isn't really a divide on this, a true divide from property line to property line. DEP recommends identifying methods of sedimentation control at down gradient channel end. Temporary, you got a temporary sedimentation basin. They're actually looking for some more detail on that. And that to me is your responses to DEP. And then the other recommendation by DEP is considering work be undertaken during low flow periods. So I don't know if you have any responses to the DEP comments, DEP recommendations.
That's definitely a good idea to add the sediment or the the erosion control barrier to below the sediment basin. I could talk to our engineer more about what the sediment basin is going to entail here, but I do think that the sediment barrier on the outer exterior of the project and the locus is efficient in controlling any erosion or sediment carry off-site into across the road, because we do have the full Millbury Street and a full grass area across the street and before it got to the actual pond itself. So a lot of sediment would be dropping out regardless.
Yeah, you're more worried about it getting into the drainage system in Millbury Road than anything else.
Okay.
You're looking for the short circuit of the flow path for that sediment. So I'll go around to our commissioners to see if they have any questions. Jonathan, any questions?
Nope, you hit on the couple of the notes for the temp drainage swale there. So
The sedimentation basin, yep.
correct, yes. So I don't have any other questions.
Betsy, do you have anything?
No, no further question.
And Alicia?
Nope, my only concern was that pipe being so close to the house, and we covered that.
Okay, great, thank you. So what I'll do now is open it up to the public. If anyone has any questions or comments for the commission or the applicant, please use the raised hand function. All right. We'll keep an eye on that to see if anyone does raise their hands. So as far as for the commissioners, as far as any recommendations for conditions. I'll go around. Jonathan.
I don't think I have any specific conditions.
Okay. Alicia.
Nope, I don't have any specific conditions other than what we've already talked about.
Okay. Or Betsy.
Same. No.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we have our standard conditions. I think the biggest thing for me is just that coordination with DPW and getting responses from as far as the comments from DEP. So it's kind of your choice. If you want to continue to the next hearing, you can kind of get all of that kind of taken care of. What's your kind of preference?
So just to, we need to address the DEP comments and talk to DPW about adding the easement to the pipe.
Right.
For the next meeting, correct?
Correct. That's really what I'm seeing.
I think we can continue to the next meeting. That doesn't seem like too much to have to handle in order to hopefully get the order of conditions for the next meeting.
Yep. And so you can also just double check on, your survey and why there's some missing contours there. And, just what that source of those contours were. And then other than that, it's really, making sure that you catch up with DPW and kind of work out kind of how that pipe is from Conservation Commission's standpoint. You're conveying the water from one side of the site to the other. It's pretty obvious from your photos that it's not a wetlands, it's not isolated, it's just water flowing over the top of the ground. So if, to adjust that pipe further away from the building foundation, I think makes a lot of sense for the future and for future maintenance, which is the key thing on our
Would you
part.
like to see an updated plan with an updated pipe if DPW sees that fit for the next meeting in order to get the order of conditions, or can that be supplemental in the future?
If you don't have a full updated plan, if you had a sketch and have DPW let us know what they're doing, then we can write it into an order, write it into a condition.
With the conservation, Wendell Phillips, I'm the developer from Phillips Luxury Homes. Would the commission feel comfortable with issuing a ruling based on the information we have, and then we could follow up with DPW and coordinate those things separately?
The only thing is DPW is kind of the thing that needs to be coordinated, but also responses to the DEP comments too.
Okay.
So those are the two things. So either you got to say them what they are now, or we'll just continue it and wrap it up at the next hearing.
Okay, and the DPW, DEP was with regards to that retention basin.
Yep, they were
that's
looking
been
for
done?
further details. I agree with them. Just a little circle on a plan doesn't tell you, it's usually pretty standard detail. That shouldn't be, it's just to document what is going to be done. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the wetlands is across the street from you. We do have a jurisdictional kind of flow path, but But those from our perspective on our jurisdiction, those are the few things that we'd be looking at.
And looking at the construction activity that's going to be taking place in that buffer zone, the majority of it, I'd say, is probably over 90 feet from that wetlands that's across the street.
Right.
And yeah, and with the silt fence and the other erosion controls, very, very limited work that will be taking place in that buffer zone.
And I would generally agree with that. Other than that, flow path is covered under our local bylaw. But again, what's being presented for erosion control, you don't see us other than getting more details that's already shown on the plans. We're not really asking for anything more.
Sure, yeah, we can provide more details.
That would be, and that's pretty much it. And the key thing is get with DPW and just sort out that pipe. And if they want you to put a manhole or put a bend in it, there's not going to be any issues with Concom.
Well, I'm not familiar. I don't have off the top of my head the scaling on that, but how close is that to the corner of the foundation, Tom? Do you know?
It looks to be about 15 feet at the most. I would
would say
than that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jan, if you want to bring up that image again, when I look at it, and if it's actually to scale, yeah, it's pretty close. If that pipe is truly 18 inches and it's shown to scale, you're maybe 4 or 5 feet off the corner. So
Okay.
that's close. Just looking at the proportions of other elements on the site, that's pretty close to that corner. Maybe it's 6 feet, but it's not 15. If that 18-inch pipe is shown to actual dimensions, it's not that far. That's my concern. That's what the discussion's about. Yeah.
Yeah, and I myself, I agree that I'd like to find out what that exact distance is, and I'm sure we can, and then we could see how best to handle it, certainly.
Yeah, and again, it's really just moving it far enough off that by putting some sort of structure in there, you can clean it out would be one thing, but you don't want to be that close to your foundation. That's it. Okay, thanks, Jan. All right, haven't seen any comments from the public. So once around again with the commission, and then we'll make a motion to continue it to our next hearing. Jonathan, any other questions or comments? Seeing a
Nothing
big
else.
shake, nope. Alicia
Nope, no additional comments.
and Betsy.
No additional comments.
Do I have a motion to continue this hearing to our next meeting?
I make a motion to continue this hearing to the December 21st meeting.
I second
se-
that motion.
Thank you. Roll call vote. Jonathan,
Yes.
Betsy,
Yes.
Alicia.
Yes.
And Tom, feel free to reach out to staff about any of the details on what we went over. And if you have any questions, either Jan or Leah can help you on that.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a good one. Thank
You
you.
Thank you, everybody.
We do have James Tatro raising his hand.
Okay. Good. Why don't you promote him and
Can you hear me?
yes.
Okay, I just forwarded a few minutes ago to Jan. Actually, I think as I saw the little email message on the side of the screen here, the file assignment number did come in at 7:26 p.m. From DP. And I'm wondering, given I think that two most significant things that we needed to do were to add stone trenching on the west and northwest side of the parking area, and to address one concern. And I was wondering if we could have as a provision, or as a condition of an order, that the project wetland scientist would supervise the restoration of the temporary alteration of the isolated wetland. If we had those two things in conjunction with the file number, would an order be possible to be issued?
The only problem is because of due process. We've already continued it to a date certain. We can't back it up. You know, that's
Okay.
just pure procedural, and that's just, I'm sorry you got it at 7:30 and didn't have it earlier, but,
That's what I was trying to point out earlier.
right, but again, we cannot be reacting like that. You know, I feel for you, and
Understand.
I get it, but, it's unfortunate, but yeah, it's the due process, and
Okay, I understand. I was wondering if it would be possible. That's
hey,
all.
you won't know unless you ask, right? I got no
Yes.
issue at all with you asking. So
Okay.
don't worry about that. It's just, yeah, sorry, I get it. It's unfortunate that it wasn't a more timely response by DEP. So,
And I understand your position as well. I totally get it.
all right. Thank you.
Thank you anyway.
All right. So next one up, Jan, is Upton Street.
That's right.
Okay. Pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Grafton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing to act upon a notice of intent for the construction of a single-family houses at 179, 183 Upton Street. And who do we have here?
Good evening, it's Norman Hill. Can you all hear me okay?
Hey, just fine. Go ahead and go for it.
Good. So all right, I'm a consultant with a consulting firm of land planning. Let's talk about the location of these two lots. They're both on Route 140. If you were to leave the center of town and head south on 140, about 2 miles, when you get to the bottom of the hill and go another half a mile, Stowe Road is on your left. You went another half a mile, you'd come to these two lots on your left. And behind these lots is the Misco Brook. So, Leah, Jan, if you could put up lot 3. So this is lot 3. It's not exactly across the street from the condos, but just a little past being across the street from the condos. And if this is the plan that was approved by the planning board, which created the 4 lots, lots 1 and 2 are more than 200 feet. We're not near any resource areas, so those we have not filed on. But 3 and 4, we've had to file both for the river out back and for the nearby wetlands, plus 4 has the lake out back. But anyway, let me focus on lot 3. Everyone okay about where this is located?
Yep, it's right next to Silver Lake.
Yes. So lot 3 is 2.8 acres. And as you look at it, you can see on the southerly portion, it's all wetland. On the northerly portion, it's upland. It's quite a hill. It rises up. And then it drops down back to where the river is, way out back on the right. You can see the 100-foot buffer riverfront zone, that first set of dashed lines, and the second set of dashed lines would be the 200-foot riverfront zone. So we're not proposing any work within the 100-foot, but we are proposing about 6,000 square feet of alteration in the 200-foot, which represents about 6 3/4% of the riverfront on this lot. So we're well under the 10%. So Misco Brook is a perennial stream. That's why we have the riverfront. It empties into Silver Lake. We're not proposing to alter any wetlands with this construction, and we're not proposing to do any work within 25 feet of any wetlands. So we're honoring your 25-foot no disturb zone. We've designed the house with a garage under, so the driveway would have a maximum slope of only 5%, which is quite not steep. And we've got an infiltration system proposed for the roof runoff. I'd like to also point out that this site is in the AC/EC zone. We've shown the limit of work and have proposed siltation controls all along that limit of work area. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Sure. So first up is just going through some of the comments that Leah had, and also actually starting with a DEP. So DEP recommended peer review of the delineation based on the BVW delineation data sheets.
Yeah, my field data sheets that I submitted, I didn't put the Latin name of the plants. I've since added the Latin name and submitted those revised field data sheets.
Yeah, it's the scientific name, not the Latin name.
Okay.
It's so Jan, can you bring up those revised sheets?
Sure. You want me to keep scrolling?
Well, if you could rotate it would be really nice. Getting there.
One more.
There you go. So this represents what we saw in the upland, which consists mostly of oak trees and pine trees and established woodland.
Yep.
The site, I didn't mention this, but the site is all gravel and sand underneath. We've done test holes throughout this area,
Okay.
10 feet deep, and we've got all gravel and sand.
All right. Can you, Jan, just scroll down to where one of the wetland sheets, one of the transects?
Here's a wetland sheet here.
Okay.
Whoops. Down a
Want
little
me to go
further.
up one?
A little further down. I don't know where you went. Oh, I'm sorry, go up.
Is it
There it is.
this one?
Whoops.
It's on the sheet above this one.
Above this.
There
There
you
you
go.
go.
Okay. All right. And again, we're responding to, comment by DEP and,
Mhm.
just calling something a fern and not, I mean, there's a crap load of ferns,
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So this is for the other commissioners. And do you folks think that these updated sheets are adequate for the delineation? Alicia?
Based on the comment that we have here from DEP, I'd say I'm on the fence about whether or not that's going to be enough.
Okay. Jonathan?
I can barely read what's on that screen, even on my 42-inch monitor, but I'm not sure if it's enough either.
Okay. And then Betsy?
Agreed. I'm on the fence.
Okay. Can we go back to the plan, Jan? And just look at the location of where that wetlands are. So you have the riverfront. And is the riverfront based, what's the riverfront based on, Norm?
Well, when I flagged the river, the leaves were falling. So if you go way out back, that's where the river is. And if you see flow, if you see those leaves moving, then you're in the river. The river gets quite wide. I mean, about 100 yards to the left, that river might be 40 feet wide. But by the time you get the river flag 1, that river is over 100 feet wide. So as it widens out into the lake, the velocity disappears, goes to 0. So it's an impoundment. So that's where I hung river flag number 1. So the river goes completely by this site. And then another 50 yards or so.
So yeah. No,
And then
and the
the-
reason why I'm asking is just, this is the first time I've seen DEP bring up comments about the data sheets and questioning the accuracy of it. So that's why I'm asking. And then obviously the key thing is if this is a transition between a river, then goes into an impoundment. It's the characteristics of the riverine characteristics versus the impoundment and so forth. And so for me on this particular lot, the big thing is where does the river end? And
So
where
if you
does
look-
the impoundment begin?
Yes, so if you look out back, you'll see river flag 8 and 9 and 7. And so the river ends another 100 yards south of this lot. So
Okay.
we've got the river flag the entire length of the backside of this lot. The only thing coming up towards the street is a finger of BVW.
Okay, Jan, can you just pull up an overview or?
This one, okay? Do you want me to pull it up?
Oh, this
GIS?
one's good. Okay, so basically, I know we don't have the numbers on here, but so can you zoom into 3? So lot 3 is showing,
Yeah, you're just seeing the shoreline and the BVW line. You're not seeing the river line on this plan.
okay,
The river line is, the shoreline is the bank of the river, but this was done before I actually flagged the river.
Okay. Because, I mean, basically the other issue with that is if you go back to the other plan is the fact that typically when, the river ends and an impoundment begins, your river ends and it's perpendicular to the river ending.
Yeah,
That's-
we had a fight in our office over there. We argued for quite a bit. Mark
Okay.
wanted to show it as a circumference, and I wanted to show it as 90 degrees. But if I were to show it at 90 degrees, it would still encompass, it wouldn't change on this lot. It wouldn't change at all on this
But
lot.
it defines where the river ends. And I think, so what information did you submit as far as your river delineation, your bank delineation? I think that's, and I'm trying to look into why DEP is bringing this up, and it's combination of BVW, but also the river. And the regulations are pretty clear where the river stops. It's 90 degrees.
Yeah,
That's clear.
that's what I thought too. Yeah.
But I guess the bigger question, and this is a question for the rest of the commissioners, is should we have this peer reviewed? The BVW is one thing. It's, you're actually, you're probably outside, based on this, you're mostly outside. Well, you do still have 100-foot buffer going through the middle of the building, but I think the more important thing is the river itself. And depending upon the topography and where the bank is and all that other kind of good stuff, where is that? I think that's the question DEP is bringing up. And I think the question before us is whether this information is sufficient enough, or should we just have the peer review go out and look at the riverine characteristics and either agree with or not agree with this delineation. I think that's really what it comes down to.
Well,
So I'll go around to the different commissioners again. Alicia.
I personally would feel more comfortable with a peer review just because a little bit of the uncertainty regarding the boundary, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, that's an important opinion.
Yeah.
Jonathan
I'm in the same boat.
and Betsy.
And I'm in the same boat, especially where we're talking about an area that borders the ACEC and Nisco Brook, right? I mean,
Yep.
that's
And it's 2
pretty
lots. You
important.
can have them both done at the same
Right.
time.
Right.
So Norman, it looks like the commission is, leading is basically gonna, require that, peer review get done on the riverine perspective. So
and the BVW or just the riverine?
BVW doesn't seem to have, I mean, they're gonna be walking the same line.
Yeah.
But
Out back, but not in that finger. The finger's just BVW.
right, but yeah, it's just it's really about from a regulatory standpoint, the requirements in the riverfront are very, very black and white
Yeah.
type of thing, as
Yeah.
So,
We don't have a problem with that. That'd be fine.
okay. All right, so, can we just go back to the plan really quick? Because I don't think I had a whole lot of, comments on the actual proposed house in, you have septic out there, you're meeting that. This will be a well also?
Yes, there's a well
Okay.
up behind the house. There's a well.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think the bigger question is really getting the delineation checked, because making sure like you have all your riverfront numbers,
Yeah.
and just making sure that we're meeting all of that, and
Yeah.
making sure that not more of the site is in the riverfront, or if less of the site's in the riverfront. I don't really care which way it goes.
Yeah, probably won't change on this lot. Oh.
Right. And then as far as the other lot, why don't we take a look at the other lot too, since.
So on this lot, if you see the dashed line in the upper right-hand corner of the site, that's 100 feet from the end of the river, and then there's the 200 feet from the end of the river. And these lines don't belong on this plan because it should be a 90-degree from the
Yep.
river, which would miss the proposed work on this lot completely.
Right. If that's the, if that's
Agreed
the
to,
opinion
river.
of
Yeah.
where the river stops.
Yeah.
And obviously I'm not gonna, we'll leave that to, our peer consultant to take a look at that, because.
Yeah. Yeah, and this lot also has a well and a septic.
Yep.
And there's no work proposed in the 25-foot zone, and just a little bit of work. Well, there won't be any work proposed in the riverfront.
Okay. So I think on both of these, it's be done together. It's all about where the river quote ends,
Yeah.
and whether there's riverine characteristics, and where does that end?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the key question.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And it was helpful to be there when the leaves were falling because you could see the flow.
Yeah, but sometimes that's wind.
Yeah, there are quite a few beaver dams out in the river portion too.
Yeah.
But they're up gradient from where my last river flag is.
All right. Let's see here. I'm just looking to see if there's anything else. Yeah. Board of Health review is coming. That won't impact us. And then,
They've informed me that they've approved these septic designs.
yeah, that again, that's not our jurisdiction. So,
Mhm, mhm.
okay. So it's really just getting the delineation peer reviewed. So do you want to, as far as we can check to see on the timing of that and just continue to the next hearing?
Sure, that'd be fine.
Okay.
I
All
don't see if
right.
there's any public comment.
Did I not already do that? It's
No.
getting too many meetings. So I'll open it up to the public. If anyone has any comments or questions on this submission for this public hearing, please feel free to raise your hand and we'll promote you to a participant and you can ask the question.
No one in here but us.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I
was gonna
thought.
say there's currently 0 people in the lobby.
I know it's the process, So seeing there's no one here, do I have a motion to continue this hearing to the next hearing?
I make a motion to continue this hearing to the next meeting on December 21st.
Do I have a second?
I make a motion, second the motion to continue to December 21st.
All right, roll call vote. Jonathan,
Yes.
Betsy,
Yes.
Alicia, you moved. You're in the wrong place. You're over here now.
Yes.
I'm also yes. The motion carries. So Jan, can you just make a note so that we can coordinate with Norm about getting the peer review done?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, thank you, everybody. Thank you.
All
Stay
right.
well. Everybody
Yep.
stay well.
Thanks, Norm.
Yeah, take care.
All right. And I think we just have the last one on the continuance. So let's go through that real quick. All right. Pursuant to the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act, the Wetlands Protection Bylaw, and the Grafton Stormwater Management Bylaw, Grafton Conservation Commission excuse me, will hold a public hearing to act upon a notice of intent for the construction of distribution facility on 244 Worcester Street. The applicant has requested a continuance to the January 4th, 2022 meeting. Do I have a motion for the continuance?
I make a motion to continue the hearing for 244 Worcester Street to the January 4th meeting.
Do I have a second?
I second said motion.
Roll call vote. Jonathan,
Yes.
Alicia,
Yes.
Betsy.
Yes.
I am also a yes. It is continued. We did meeting minutes. We did 146 North Street.
We have the budget and the baseline document reports.
Okay, so why
from-
don't we do the baseline documents? So, so that was put into the Dropbox, so everyone knows what the baseline documents are for the Robinson lots and Great Meadow Gateway. Okay, that's fine. Well, so why don't you just bring them up real quick, Jan? I mean, basically, so whenever the town acquires property, there's an assessment done, and that's what this is. And so let me go back to
Okay.
here.
So if I go into the Dropbox.
So basically, you know, both Jan reviewed the documents. These come from the land trust. And so it's really just an assessment of the site.
Got it.
If everyone is interested, please review them. Otherwise, it's really just our kind of procedure to continue with this process is that we would accept these or we'd
Got
approve
it.
them.
Thank you for clarifying. That helps.
Yeah. No, does anyone have any specific questions on these? If not, I'll go around. Do I have a motion to approve the baseline document reports for Robinson lots and Great Meadow Gateway?
I make a motion to approve the baseline document reports for Robinson lots and Great Meadow Gateway.
Do I have a second?
I second that said motion.
Roll call vote. Alicia,
Yes.
Betsy,
Yes.
Jonathan.
Yes.
I'm also a yes. Motion passes. Last thing is the budget. If you want to bring that up. All right, so this was, you know, as part, I was on the report that Leah pulled together. I went over this with Leah. So this is the budget for the Conservation Commission, and generally, when you look at this, you generally see almost all of our budget is, you know, staff. It is, you know, they were asked to, what would you call it? Have
Level
it
fund.
level fund. Thank you. I was grasping for those words. To level fund it, which means a pretty nominal increase in salary and really no increases in expenses. So does anyone have any questions on this budget? And this is great. I really like, this is a new format. It's a great way to be really transparent. The one thing in there that, you know, during the last fiscal year, we did get some funding for conservation field inspector. It just hasn't happened yet, but it's something that we're going to keep there, and hopefully we can actually hire someone to do that.
So
Uh,
Sandy,
yep.
this is all very straightforward and I'm glad they're not lumping everything into one big black hole, so that's great.
Yep.
But my email that I sent to you folks regarding Quinsigamon and the lake treatment.
Yep.
Is there, I know we don't have budget for that, but is there any way we can see if the town will? I mean, I thought the important point that was made by Peter was that although we might have a smaller portion of Quinsigamon, we have the most dense noxious weeds of
Right.
all of Quinsigamon.
So I think, and again, we can follow up with Leah. We had checked before. So what's not shown on here are our different funds. So when we get, permit fees and so forth, that goes into a fund that we can use to like maintain our conservation lands and things like that. But there's very strict rules and regulations around what those monies can do. For something like with the Lake Quinsigamon, what we would want to do is if there's a specific number, what we would do is we would actually do it in the spring town meeting and request it as
Okay,
an article. That would be the process.
okay,
And I know there's probably a schedule already for that. So that would be something that if that's something the commission wants to kind of recommend, that's definitely something that we can pursue.
okay. And at the next, I think our next meeting isn't until after the first of the year, but Peter had mentioned that he had sort of gone making proposals from town to town so we could get more specific. I believe out of the three towns, Worcester, Shrewsbury, and Grafton, only Shrewsbury has funded the treatment at 30,000.
Okay.
And I said that probably wouldn't be possible, but he made a compelling.
No, and I think it would be nice to contribute. And even if it's not a large amount
Right.
or the same, it would be something, and then if we go through that process, it doesn't pass. It's we're doing what we're
Exactly. That's the way I feel. I feel like it's a sort of a show of respect that we're appreciating the work that's being done
Yep.
and I even think a nominal contribution would at least show that.
Right. Okay. So that'd be something. So Jan, if you can kind of find out and talk to Leah about what the process would be. I've never written really a warrant article before, so
Nor I.
but
Neither
it's a process.
Yep.
It's a way to learn. So
Good.
okay.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Other than that, I think this looks great.
Okay. Any other questions on the budget? I think this is, for me, this is brand new this year, how to do this kind of form. I think it's extremely helpful for me anyways. We're not, it's pretty, to the bone budget. So, and it's almost like I would love to add a line at the bottom, value of volunteers I'm serious.
Yeah.
People need to realize how important it is to have folks, volunteer for these boards.
Yeah.
A lot of work is, but anyways, that's all the babbling I'm going to do. So is there any other comments or questions on this? If not, we've got one motion left.
We have to approve the budget
We
before
have
we
to
do the
approve the
last.
budget?
Yeah.
Okay. Excuse me, we have two motions left.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the proposed budget.
For a second.
I second said motion.
All right, roll call vote. Jonathan,
Yes.
Betsy,
Yes.
Alicia,
Yes.
I'm a yes, and the motion carries. So so we have a meeting on the 21st.
That's
Mhm.
right.
So we do have a December 21st meeting. I will be around, but does anyone else want to run it? Be chair for the night?
I'm not experienced enough. That can't be me.
Okay, that's fine.
I mean, it looks like it's going to be an incredibly long meeting. So if I volunteer to run it, it'll last until midnight.
We can split it.
It
We can
already
split it.
I'll split it. I accidentally have, every meeting I run accidentally ends up either having a fight or being 3 hours long.
And again, I haven't really, I know we have a couple of continuances, but the continuances should be really straightforward. But,
All right, yeah, I'll run the next one.
okay, I
'Cause
appreciate
I don't
that.
think I'm gonna be at the January 4th one, so.
Okay, I appreciate that. It just gives me a break from talking for a couple hours. So,
I
all
will do it.
right, thank you very much.
So you will or will not be there, Sandy? You just.
Oh, I'll be here.
You'll be
I am.
All right.
And the next one is January what?
4th.
Okay, good, because I'm down in Florida the following weekend.
No, I'm down in Florida the whole week before that, and I've just gotten home, so.
No, I'm going down the 6th for the weekend. So
Disney?
no, just to go down visit my sister. So good reason to go to Florida in January. That's
Yeah.
really what it's about.
I'm going to visit my uncle, so same.
Yep, it's good reason. Free place to stay. Okay, so
All right.
having said that,
I'm gonna make a motion to close the meeting.
second.
Amen. I
Who has a second?
that motion.
All right, roll call vote. Jonathan,
Yes.
Betsy,
Yes.
Alicia.
Yes.
I am also a yes, and just like to thank everyone for attending.